From my very earliest moments, I believed that God was real and that Jesus had saved me from my sins. I had been bought with a price, and I was looking forward to the day where I would be reunited with my heavenly Savior in my heavenly home. I'm told that at the age of 3, I prayed the sinner's prayer, sitting next to my mother in the household bathroom of all places, kneeling over the edge of the bathtub, carefully forming my words after hers as I confessed my greatest of preschool sins and asked Jesus to come into my heart. I grew increasingly active in all things church through junior high, and then started an award-winning Christian ministry at the age of just 16. Started preaching on Sunday morning at the age of 17. Helped staff the Billy Graham crusade when the good Reverend came to the Minneapolis Metrodome in the late 1990s. Went off to seminary and then pastored a couple churches over the next dozen years. The Lord's hand was most apparently upon me as we built bridges of faith and an increasingly thriving community of Jesus followers. And then it all fell apart. I had loved my faith, seen Jesus as my only true friend, and was unable to conceive of my identity apart from my Christ, until I gradually found myself unable to continue believing in his very existence. Alas, as it turned out, I could save others, but I couldn't save myself. In the summer of 2012, I left the ministry in a last-ditch effort to try to rekindle my faith in God. Maybe, just maybe, once I'd no longer been tasked with watching over everyone else's souls, maybe, just maybe, I'd find the capacity to focus more fully on my own and to find God there once again. But then, nearly 14 years ago, after 2 full years of battling to keep and maintain my faith, begging and pleading with the God of wonders to reveal himself to me once more, only to be met with deafening silence. It was at that point where I admitted to myself one morning that yes, I had indeed become an atheist. And I shit you not, it was a thrilling moment. I felt empowered, suddenly exuberant. I found myself finally able to let go and live free, and it felt transcendent. And then I stepped out into the real world, and I realized I had absolutely little idea how to process or even perceive of the world around me apart from my God. And I had to begin then at that point the slow and winding journey of rebuilding my life anew. For the first 2 years, I didn't know of a single other minister in the entire world who had left their faith. It was as if I was all on my own. Eventually, though, I discovered a group of heretics from my old seminary, and then through them, I found another group of heretics called the Clergy Project, a nonprofit providing services to religious leaders around the world who no longer believe in supernatural things, providing them peer support, community resourcing, and career transition assistance. And so I joined up with them. I began volunteering as their communications director, and then eventually having the privilege of serving as their president. I've served the secular, atheist, and humanist communities in a variety of capacities for well over a decade now, but the one thing that I continue to enjoy overwhelmingly more than any other is helping the freshly deconverted navigate life after faith. Which brings us to this evening's show. What we're launching here tonight is a new live call-in show specifically focused on exactly what the title suggests, helping folks navigate life after faith. While it's true that we're willing to accept calls from pretty much anyone asking about pretty much anything, our priority is going to be fielding calls from former Christians and more broadly from former theists in general who have left the faith and are looking for boots on the ground, real-time assistance in real time, in real life, coming alongside you, partnering with you, even for just a few brief moments in the specific challenges that you are facing today, actual problems that you're working to find your way through. We want you to call. We want to hear from you where you're at and see how we can help, to help spur up and inspire these calls, these questions each week. Not only will I have joining me a very special guest co-host every week, and we're about to introduce this week's, our very first, our inaugural guest co-host, if you will. We also, in addition to our guest co-host every week, we're going to invite conversations and questions by having a featured conversation each week as well. And this week, since we're all just getting to know each other, fam, we'd simply love to hear your greatest challenges since leaving the faith. If you used to be a believer in some sort of God stuff and now you no longer are, we want to hear from you. We want to hear about what are some of your hardest challenges that you've faced on your journey. And if you're currently still trying to navigate some of those challenges, we especially want to hear from you tonight. And if you want to call in about something just totally different, well, hell, might as well take time to talk to you as well. Either way, we want you to call. The number is on the screen, folks. 984-400-5656. That's 98-4400-5656. Because the Life After Faith Live call-in show, it starts in 3, 2, 1, now. Yeah, okay. And so tonight, folks and family, for the inaugural episode, the launch, the kickoff, the number one session, we have the one and only Candace R.M. Gorham, LCM, HCS. Here she is in the house. Candace, thank you for being here.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be your inaugural guest host. I was completely honored and floored when you reached out to me. So I'm excited. I'm ready.
Absolutely. Oh, well, seriously, it's great to have you. I mean, there's so much that could be said, just a little bit, some of the high points. You are a former ordained minister turned atheist activist, humanist, researcher, writer. You've got books. Oh, the books. I've read both of them. The Ebony Exodus Project, Why Some Black Women Are Walking Out on Religion. Others should too. On Death, Dying, and Disbelief. Incredible stuff. You now work with the AHA. There's so much that could be said. And of course, you are a licensed professional mental health counselor. Seriously, it's incredible to have you on. So much that could be said. Would you take a moment, though, share with us a little bit about your life, your story, your journey, for those who might not know you well yet? And seriously, if y'all don't know who Candace is, you will be a fan and a follower and a groupie by the end of tonight. And again, we are going to take calls soon in the minutes ahead. So folks, start getting ready on what you're going to call in. But first, Candace, share with us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, what brought you here, and maybe some challenges along the way.
Okay. So, as far as just like my personal religious story, I was raised, well, the first few years of my religious life we were Jehovah's Witness. It was my mom and dad and my siblings. And really it was my dad that was into the Jehovah's Witness. My mom was completely uninterested, but her husband told her she had to go to the Kingdom Hall. She had to go to the Kingdom Hall. And so, there was a few years of this going to the, Kingdom Hall, work, study, at home, going out and doing street ministry, all of that stuff. Well, my mom and dad broke up when I was about third grade, fourth grade. And so, like I said, my mama didn't really care. So she was, specifically about Jehovah's Witness. And so as a result, we stopped going. However, me and my crazy ultra religious self, I just have always sort of had this religious bone inside of me, I guess, so to speak. Um, I chose to study with a Jehovah's Witness family who also had a daughter my age. So they would come over and we would study on the weekends. And of course, my friends were always like, "Why are you doing religion, Saturday morning? We're at the playground. Come on." So, that was there. And then I kind of fell off from that. And my dad grew up in a United Methodist church. So all of my family, like to this day, most of my family still goes to this church. So I started going to that church in middle school. I was hanging out with cousins and, getting close. Just so that was where the family went. That's where I went. And so that we did that for a few years. Then I got to high school and I got a job and a car and a boyfriend.
Oh.
And I was living my best little 16, 17-year-old life doing things that I shouldn't be doing. So,
oh no.
So I fell out of my religious stuff at that time. Obviously, it was incompatible. So I wasn't going there. And then my senior year in high school, my sister married a minister. And that's when everything started to change for me in terms of my attitudes about religion, my attitude about God, my attitude about all of the, stuff in that arena. So he was one of those, fire and brimstone, speaking tongues, cast out devils, pay your tithes. He was that kind of preacher. Technically, we were non-denominational, but it was given Pentecostalism, that kind of stuff. And so I was ordained. I got ordained in that church at like 18 or 19 years old. I was told that I was a prophetess, so I started prophesying. And, I was told that, I was a good singer. So I sang in the praise team, so I just went along with all these things. And, I was used to, we would fast for 7-10 days at a time, no food, just water, no juice.
For 17 days?
No, 7 to 10.
Oh, 7 to 10. Well, either way. Either way, I'd be done on the first half.
Exactly. So, so we were doing that, like I said, casting out demons and stuff like that. Well, what started happening for me was in my, mid 20s, I started struggling with depression, really, really, really bad depression. And so between the depression and some other things were going on, like I foreclosed on my first home, at like 24 years old. Like I got caught up in the bubble. And so, I was one of those victims of the system, and which I won't blame it all on the system. That's another conversation. But, losing my house, getting depressed, having marital issues. I was always told that if you love God and you're doing right by God, you should be living a prosperous, happy, healthy life. Your marriage should be great. Your kids should be great. So when that stuff wasn't happening, when my world was basically crumbling, I started, I kind of felt like I'm the one doing something wrong. I'm the one that's disappointing God in some way. So I started studying even more. I was like, I'm going back to the basics. Like I had read the whole Bible by then. And so I said, I'm going back to basics. I'm going to start considering other, concepts about God. Maybe that's where I'm missing it. So I slowly, and as you can imagine, that's actually one of the worst things you can do if you already start studying about what other religions have to say about God. And so that is where the ball started rolling, getting me towards becoming an atheist. And this was like the second half of my 20s. And so there's more from there, but that's how I got from religion to atheist. That's the basics.
So how long from the time you started, I guess, doing leadership type stuff, sound like you were 18 years old when you're a prophetess, I think you said an evangelist.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing all this big stuff in the church. And then you fast forward to when you are, you're going through life is throwing you curveballs. You're having a tough time. That unlocks this curiosity where now you start studying these other religions and whatnot. What's the time frame between there? Do you have any idea, or what would you ballpark? How many years would you say you were confident in your ministry, if ever? Yeah.
Well, as far as like, once I started with the more extreme version, I was 110,000% certain that I was anointed by the Lord, that I had a word, that I had healing hands. What? You could not have told me otherwise. I was one of those real deal, hardcore. I believe if the Bible says it is, I was a biblical literalist. If it says it, it's true, and I'm here for it. Like, that was the kind of Christian that I was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how long? And you said you were like mid to late 20s when it kind of started falling apart?
Right. So I would say, like I said, about 18 to right before I moved to Bermuda, I was 27 when I moved to Bermuda. So I would say from almost 10 years, from like 18 to 26, 27. Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible. So, I mean, if you had to, could you get up and give us a word right now?
Oh, yeah.
Could you do it?
Yeah. Those skills don't go away.
They do not.
No, you know what I'm saying? You don't want me to get up right now and start praising the Lord. Hallelujah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah. I was never part of a tradition where we embraced the sign gifts for today. So I missed out on a lot of that good stuff. But yeah, I was part of that old Baptist, preach for an hour. Don't get me started. That's easy.
Yeah, at least.
Right, exactly.
Right. The children were doing an hour. Come on now.
Oh, absolutely. And where was this? I know you mentioned at one point you moved to Bermuda. Where did you grow up? If you said it before, I know right now you're in Greensboro, right?
North Carolina. Yep. I born and raised. And that's where I was in Greensboro right before I moved to Bermuda. So mostly besides those couple of years in Bermuda, I've always been in North Carolina.
Okay. Oh, there. Yeah. All right. That's awesome. Yeah. I've always grew up in Minnesota, but then I moved to Chicago, and I was in Chicago when I was doing the ministry, the church ministry, all that good stuff. So, yeah. So talk to us a little bit about leaving the faith. I know you said that, you're reading about these other religions. It sounds like it started off just more as a curiosity. Connect the dots in terms of like, okay, so you're going through the thick. You're feeling some depression. You're just, life is kicking your backside. And how many have been in something similar, right? I mean, raise your hand in the chat, right? And so you're going through the thick. What does it do? Connect those dots. Does it raise curiosity? So, because you're still a believer, right? Or was your faith starting to wane a little bit, and that's why you're looking at other religions? What led you to start going down that journey?
Yeah, I would say that I was still a Christian. I was still a confident Christian. Like I believe that the Bible was what it said. I believe that Jesus was what we had been taught to believe. So at the time when I first started to question things, it wasn't that I was questioning God or Christianity. It was that I was questioning like the flavor of Christianity that I had. So it was like, maybe I should be part of another denomination. And, so I started just kind of consuming all kinds of stuff. I was looking at Jehovah's Witness material again. I was looking at, other churches' doctrines. And I mean, I was just reading some of whatever I could get my hands on. And then I started, I kind of went through a phase where it was like, maybe, I believe in Jesus and I believe he's the son of God, but you don't necessarily have to do all this extreme stuff. Like you be okay. Then it went from that to, well, there's many paths. There's many paths to the Lord. And so, Jesus is only one. And then I went to, well, maybe none of that. Maybe it's just the universe. And, you just try to be a good person and that's good enough. And so it went through that kind of, typical progression that then, and I know there's a lot of arguments about agnostic versus atheist, but I would say I was one of those people that went through my agnostic phase that was like, I'm agnostic. I don't have any comments about belief. I just don't know, and then eventually it was like, I really don't believe any of this. If there is a God, he doesn't care enough to reveal himself to me. I'm living my day-to-day life as if there is no God.
Yeah.
And I remember where I was at. I remember what I was doing. I remember it. And I remember going, I don't believe this anymore. I'm just going to throw the whole thing away. And it was like that. I mean, it wasn't an instant. It was a long, deconversion. It was a long deconversion, but once I finally got to the end, it was like it was over.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm sure though, once you realized you were no longer a believer, Christian, whatnot. I mean, from then it was smooth sailing, right? Like everything just magically fell into place. Your whole life, your trajectory, you knew exactly where you were going from there. All easy peasy, whole map laid out after you walked away from the faith, right?
Absolutely not.
Preach how easy it was.
Oh, it was not. Okay, it's a fire and brimstone message at this point because life was hard. It was difficult. In a lot of ways. And I would say one of the most difficult things for me in the very, very beginning was I was still incredibly afraid that I was going to go to hell. And I thought, oh man, like if I'm wrong, this going to go real bad and it's going to go bad for the rest of eternity. So I was terrified about hell. And so that was one of the concepts that I had to attack, and I had to attack it pretty hard and pretty consistently. I had to use coping skills. I had to use positive self-talk. I had to do all those things to kind of wash that fear of hell out of me. And so that was the probably one of the biggest things in the early days.
And it can be so shocking to hear that. I think for a lot of folks, looking in from the outside, who maybe they are lifelong atheists or lifelong non-theists of any variety, whatever the preferred term of each person is. Maybe they're lifelong atheists, non-theists. Maybe they simply, their deconversion story doesn't include a fear of hell. Maybe even when they did believe in a God, they never feared hell, right? And so looking in from the outside to that type of narrative and that type of story, it can be kind of shocking. Wait a minute. I've heard it over and over again. I'm guessing you probably have too, right? Where it's, wait a minute, you don't even believe in a God. How can you still be scared of hell if you don't believe in a God? But it's kind of common, right? You're not the only one. I've heard of it many, many times.
Super common, super duper. Many people, even in my book, Ebony Exodus Project, there are women in there who talk about their fear of hell and going through that process. I would, it's like a trauma response, or once something is really deeply ingrained in you, you can get out of the environment. But like what's the saying? You could take the girl out of the whatever, but you can't take the whatever out the girl.
Yeah.
Like it is
Take
truly
the girl
one
out of
of
hell.
those.
You take hell out of the girl. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's something like
It
that.
lingers. Yeah.
Yes, lingers. Hmm.
Oh, wow. Well, I feel honestly this topic. I do think at some point in the weeks, months, years, decades ahead for the future of this show. There's no doubt that we are going to need to take a show where we specifically focus in on that challenge, because I hear about it so often, and it's really, I guess you could call it a puzzler, some would say, in that it just at first glance, it's like, wait a minute, why, how? But it really is. It gets so deep, and it is such a trauma response. And it seems, my observation is, it seems like the more rightward or the more fundamentalist your faith tradition is that you come from, the more of a hellfire and brimstone type church tradition it is, the more likely you are where that settles in you. Like for me, I came from more, we believed in hell, but it was a little bit more positive, optimistic type thing. I didn't really preach hellfire and brimstone. I never really had it preached to me. So it's not something I wrestled with, but a lot of folks, that's the case. And so, yeah, this time this comes up, that's for damn sure. Damn sure.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, hey,
even like United Methodist, that's pretty liberal, but I don't know about any other United Methodist. I definitely heard messages in my church that hell was real, you don't want to go there, like that. And like you said, I mean, it wasn't as touched on as extremely as it was when in my more extreme religious experiences, but it was everywhere. For me growing up, it was everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, incredible. So much to talk about. Such a great conversation already. We do already have a couple callers already lining up. But first, real quick. I know you include in your bio, so it looks like we can talk about it at least a little bit. I just want to congratulate you on your engagement, because someone's getting married in the days ahead.
Yes, I am. I am engaged to my darling sweetheart. We've been together about 4 years. She's gonna get me. We've been together since 2022, so that's 4 years, right? And so yeah, we're getting married in August, and it is a medieval theme. And yes, I'm so excited. And everybody has to wear something medieval. You will not be allowed in if you walk up in just a regular old suit and tie. So everybody's got her. So yeah, we're excited. And we're spending unholy amounts of money on this. This will absolutely be the last marriage, if for no other than the expense.
Oh, no, I get that. I get that. The expense and the remarriage. I just got remarried as well. Stacy Goose, Apostasy, is in the chat. That's my new bride, but or at least she was earlier. She's working tonight, so she might be in and out. But seriously though, the two of you, you're sweetie. She is so amazing. The two of you at NanoCon, the two of you throughout. Seriously, yeah, I'm just thinking of you two. Just makes me so happy. Just makes me so happy.
And to kind of connect this to our religion conversation, this is a lesbian relationship.
It wouldn't have been okay before?
No. So I did go through, like, when I actually, to be honest with you, when I brought Deanna home to my family, that was my family's first time having any inkling that I was bisexual. I had interest in women. That except for like the people who were like super duper close to me, like my sister knew, my best friend knew, but everybody else, it was an utter shock, because that was, so taboo, just even outside of religion, just in the Black community in general.
Yeah. Oh, Doesn't freedom feel good?
Feels so good.
So good, right? Doesn't
Yes.
freedom feel good? All
Mhm.
right, folks, this is a great conversation. We're going to take our first caller, and they're already teeing up, queuing up, lining up. Okay.
Yay.
Feel free to get yourself in the line as well. As we shift to that, though, I do just want to invite as well the chat. Okay. So as y'all are going in the chat, I want to encourage each of you. You might not be in a space where you can call in. You might not be in a space where you're not going to call. You're just not a caller, maybe. Okay. If y'all are a call, get yourself together and let's go. Okay. But if you're not a caller, that's fine. Get in the chat. I would love everyone share, if you're willing, what are some of your biggest challenges since leaving the faith? What was the crippling stuff? You don't have to go into tons of detail unless you want to. You certainly can, but I know it's a chat. But name it. Name some things. What were the top 10? What were the dirty dozen? Or what just was the big one that just immobilized you on your way outside of faith? We're keeping an eye on these, one, because we want to keep an eye on the chat always, but also two, the more we see some of these themes coming up, the more likely we are to say, you know what, this is such a huge challenge. Let's build an entire featured conversation one of these weeks along this particular challenge, hardship, concern, controversy, difficulty, etc. Right? So chat away. Let's do that. We want to be building community here, y'all. And that said, let's take our first call. So I'm going to push the big green button on Steve. Steve's pronouns are he, him, and I have a feeling I might know who this Steve is. Let's see here. All right, as they key up, I think, hey there, Steve. You are on live with Candace and Drew. How you doing tonight, my man?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, so congratulations on the new show. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
And
thank you.
Congratulations are also due for Candace for the big wedding coming up. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, let's see. I see it says that you are an author in Canada. So I have a feeling I know which Steve this is, and the sound of your voice kind of seems to confirm it. But if you want to share which Steve the author you are, or maybe be a little more vague and just give us the title of whatever it is you've authored, that would maybe be kind of tons of fun.
Well, the only way I can really prove that I am who I am is by actually pronouncing my name correctly. So at least
wait, hold on. Is it Jacadis?
Jacadis, yeah, really close. It's like a cat.
Did I get it? Oh, not quite. Almost. Okay. Yeah. Say it for us again. Yeah, everybody needs to pay attention because everybody butchers it, right? Everybody says it wrong.
But Secular Rarity and I were talking about this, that all the greatest authors of all time had hard to pronounce last names, like Bekius and Gorham, right?
Thank you. Yes. Well done. Yes.
Well, look, on my nightstand.
Oh, there it is.
On the nightstand. Just
That's
want
so
you
she
to
can
know.
Do her humanist devotional every day, every night.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, thank you for calling in. Hey, it looks like, the notes I have is that the purpose for your call was to congratulate us, which we're always down for congratulations. Would you by chance have a challenge you'd like to share? Well, wait a minute. No, you wouldn't have had a challenge leaving the faith, right? Because
I didn't, but I have a challenge right now, which is I have to get my kids to bed. So unfortunately,
all right.
But I just also wanted to mention though that Candace's story, that's an incredible journey that you had, and it's a very common thing for people to still fear hell when they're coming out of religion. And I know this because I am a volunteer for Recovering from Religion, and that is the number one fear that people have. And they usually, when they come to our resources, that's the number one thing that we see people key into the resources when they do a search. So that's a very common thing. And it's, again, I just want to shout out Recovering from Religion as an amazing organization that helps people with coming out of religion and also just having doubts. And we're not there to deconvert anyone or anything. We're there to provide a shoulder to cry on for people, just as Drew knows. So,
Yeah, it really is a fantastic organization, Recovering from Religion. And they have a great resource page. So if you're just looking for a good book, you're looking for some good resources, there's a few different sites out there that are pretty damn great, but Recovering from Religion, their resource list is one of the best.
Very
And
comprehensive.
yeah, it really is. It really is.
Absolutely. Well, thank you
Steve,
so
thank
much
you
for
so much.
having me on.
Sounds like you got to run, go take care of the kiddos and whatnot. But we
I
are
do,
looking
yeah,
forward.
but I
We are going to
really
have you right here in one of these seats coming up here in May. I think second half
what?
of May. You're coming on to co-host with us, and we're looking forward to it, brother.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, and have a great rest of your show.
You
Good
too, sir. Talk
night.
to you later. All right, bye-bye.
All right, love you guys. Bye.
Love you.
Oh, love you.
All right. So that's great. Always great hearing from Steve. Steve's a good
Yeah.
dude. Steve's a good dude. Now, because he was at NanoCon as well. I don't know how
Mhm.
much you two got to interact. Well, yeah, obviously you picked up his book, so you knew who he was prior to his
Mhm.
call tonight.
Yeah, we met at NanoCon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that was
really
pretty
good.
cool meeting him.
Yeah. Yeah. He and I first met back at one of the Baja Cons
Oh.
in the north of the Canadian border above Detroit
Mm.
there in Ontario, or in Ontario, Sarnia, Ontario. So yeah, good dude, does great work with Recovering from Religion, just as they all do.
Mhm.
Well, what do you think? Should we take another call?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Should we go ahead and do that? All right, here we go. And folks, remember, keep calling in and come share whether it's a boots on the ground question you'd like our thoughts and perspective on, whether it's simply wanting to share what was one of your great challenges in navigating life after faith. Either way, come on all in, and we'd love to hear from you. Okay. Next up, we have Scott. Pronouns are he, him, from Michigan. And we're pushing the big green button.
Hey, I'm here.
And hello, Scott. You're on live with Candace and Drew. How you doing tonight?
I'm so good, man. Yeah, I'm up here in Michigan, and there's a lot I could bring up as a stress point of leaving religion, but I'm curious about, like, Drew, I think I know your story in terms of leaving religion because of your past life as far as your work. I'm not sure on Candace's, but just that when you happen to work at a company that is not publicly Christian, but internally very Christian. And you suspect you may have even been hired because of the assumption of being religious. And so that kind of, as you move up in leadership in an organization, just that, who are you really kind of feeling, and the stress that can bring.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think, I believe I remember you and I having a conversation about this one other time on another show, maybe even a couple years ago. Does that sound right? Have you called in about this before?
I have not, but Drew, you and I know each other because I'm going by my atheist name of Skeptical Scott.
Sounds good. Sounds
Not
good.
my real name.
Fantastic.
You and I met at the Heretic House in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And I'm a bearded brother, kind of like Steve from Canada. If that gives you any hints.
Absolutely.
But, this actually brings up a point, though, right? It's like how much can somebody use their actual name without revealing too much to people that know them,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Having to navigate life, having to navigate work, having to navigate online without being able to share who we really are, right? And sometimes there's just other general concerns about what we put online anyway, but it also specifically ties in even more so with, I guess, the connections we have around us from church and from church world, I guess, from conservative coworkers, etc. Yeah.
Well, let me give some solid examples here. So the company I work with is based out of Texas. Okay. And so when the rare times we're all together, when we're internally together and we're having our own development, I suppose, there's always going to be a prayer before meals. There's going to be a lot of God is good all the time. We're all blessed. There's even, hey, Scott, can you pray for the group right now?
Oof.
Those kind of, it's like, okay, do I out myself right here, right now?
Yeah.
And this is at work.
You know, this is at work. This is at work. And it's tough because, I mean, there's a part of me that for a while I'd resent it. I'd get pissed off. But then kind of the reframe was, well, okay, so I have to code switch. I know there's plenty of people who know what that's like. Whose company is it? It's not mine. So I suppose if I want something different, then I should make my own. You know what I mean? But it brings up really, it underscores Christian privilege.
Yeah.
In terms of what people can get away with and Candace, I think about you, showing up with your family for the first time as an engaged couple. Is that right? Is that how I heard it?
Well, the first, just dating, not engaged, but dating.
Okay. Or I wasn't sure on that, but that, it's like, okay, here I am, here we are. And there's been that moment now. I'm actually not calling for advice per se, but more of a, here's how I've dealt with it deal. And so now when someone asks me to pray, I just say, sure. For the people I'm with, for the food we're eating, and for who made it, I'm really grateful.
Yeah.
That's all I say.
Right.
Absolutely. And do you word it like a prayer, or do you word it more just like eyes are open and you're just saying thank you?
My eyes are up and open. My arms are out like, hey, everybody, but I'm not like bowing my head or anything. And I go, it's pretty short and sweet, just like that. And when I tried that, when it happened, one of my supervisors came up to me at lunch and she just said, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I'll never ask you to do that again.
Oh. How did you receive that? Did you like how that, did you say coworker, I think, or was it a boss? But did you like how they handled that?
Yeah, she's my boss. She was my boss. Okay. I kind of said to her, well, how else would you know if I don't really talk about it? I tried to kind of, for me, it was, I was happy that she didn't make it even more awkward and that she recognized that she had put me in that position. You know what I mean? I truly believe she came from a point of, man, I'm sorry about that. So I did like that, but I think it happens so often, those kinds of situations for people at work that for some of us, maybe we've just learned not to care and move on. But I don't know, it bugs me.
Yeah. Do you feel like if that happened again, be it in the same setting, somebody else at work, same setting, you're asked again, or be it in a slightly different setting where you're asked to lead grace or say the prayer or whatnot, would you handle it the same? Is there anything you do different?
Good question.
What do you think afterwards?
I mean, I might, if I'm in front of a big group, and at the time we were actually in front of a pretty large group, many of them brand new to us. And so I didn't want their first impression of all of us to be a conflict like that. You know what I mean? So, but if that similar situation were to happen, I probably would say, sure, I'll say something, but I'm not saying, sure, I'll pray for the group. Another situation would be when they outright ask me, hey, can we pray for Joe right now? Or can I pray for you? And that's another one where I don't think I handled it. I think we all don't we all dream about our response to that sometimes? Here's what I would say. I'll think for you. But I think at the time I just said, hey, if it makes you feel better, knock yourself out, is what I said to the person.
Well, and that's part of
me
it.
again.
Yeah, is
I missed
there's
that.
no
Say that
right or
again.
wrong way to do any of this, right? There's no right or wrong way. There's no one, this is the way that all former Christians, etc., have to conduct themselves or have to respond when they're called upon for prayer. There's no right or wrong answers to any of this. It's simply finding a way that fits for you, that makes you feel comfortable, respects the boundaries as you kind of meander your way. It's not always clear right away what those boundaries should be because there is no right or wrong answer, but it's finding your way. And yeah, and sometimes then afterwards, I know I've had a few times where maybe I respond a certain way, and then all night I'm either up thinking about it or it makes its way into my dreams and I'm like, oh, I could have done this different. I could have said that differently. And so when I ask you, how did you feel it go? Would you do it the same way again? It wasn't that I'm looking for the right or wrong answer. It's looking for how comfortable are you with it? And if you're comfortable, if you thought it went well, respected your boundaries, then that's great. And all of us in the chat, all of us who are viewing both now and in the future, our community that we're building here tonight, we all learn from each other in this because there is no right or wrong answer, but it's coming alongside one another and partnering with each other through stuff like this, you know?
Yeah, I was thinking about so I kind of have a similar, well, not exactly identical, but I used to work for this company, and it was owned by black women. Of course, a black woman. Of course, we know black women are the most religious demographic in the country. And when she did her meetings, she would talk openly about God and this, that, and the third. But nobody ever felt like it was like something that you had to do to be a employee or something like. But it was present. And I remember I went on Roland Martin's show. He had a national live show back then. And I went on the show live. This was like Ebony Exodus hadn't even been out a year. So this was a long time ago. And so I go to the show. It's again, national TV. And I remember when I went back to work like the next day, this girl at my job comes up to me and she goes, oh, I saw you on TV. And I went, no. I was like, don't talk about that. And she was just like, oh, I mean, you were on TV. That was cool. And I was like, please do not talk about this. Because at the time I worked with children. I was a play therapist. And I thought if any parent finds out that I'm an atheist, they're going to I'm going to lose all my clients. So I understand exactly what you're saying about trying to figure out how authentic do I be at work versus how protectionist do I be. Another company I work from, I like one day told this girl, I was like, I hate to say it this way, but I was like, Google me. And she was like, so, I used to try to keep that stuff away from my coworkers as well. Like I didn't want anybody to know, just because you just never know which way it's going to go. And I didn't want to lose my job.
Yeah, because maybe you need your job, right? What was that, Scott?
Well, I'm just saying that I totally get it. And, especially if you're in a business where people are going to look you up.
Yeah.
Because, it might be because they actually feel close to you. Like, oh man, I really love working with this guy. Let's see and then if they look at it, they may not forgive a first impression like that. They may never hire them.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's awkward too, where again, well, I'm glad all of our Christian employees can post even their own prayers to everybody. Yeah. Dear Father, this is what I need, like out on public social media. And there's no real price to pay on that. In fact, there's probably a lot more amen, et cetera, et cetera. We just can't do that. So it comes back to, it costs you either way. And are you willing to pay that cost?
Yeah. I can think of a time several years back where I was working for a large corporation. I had been recently hired at a large corporation, and And after a few, and I had kind of hit it off with our local HR person. She was great. And at our particular office, kind of hit it off with her. We were like-minded in some things. She was progressive. It just, all these things start coming to the surface. And it's a type of corporation where you have to disclose everything you ever do. And so disclose that. And she's like, oh, wow, I see all of this that you've done and that you do. Because by that time I was active doing the kind of stuff I am right now. And she's like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. And then she pulled me aside one day and she said, one of the big bosses tried getting you fired when he found out that you were an atheist all over the internet. And he was going to fire you. And then I told him, she said, no, he might not be an atheist, but that's all the more reason why we have to have him here, because diversity of many things, including diversity of thought and religious perspective, is part of what our corporation says we value. And so, yeah, you can't fire him. So I was so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for that lady.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'll make a final point and then maybe we can move to somebody else. But, you know, I guess the last thing I would want to say, you're assumed sometimes to be Christian, right? Yeah. And this just became very apparent because I made a post on my personal Facebook that wasn't necessarily atheist, but it was more making a political point. It was about transgender day of visibility, which shouldn't be seen as political, by the way, but this person took it that way. And this is one of my bosses. Come on, Christian. God didn't make gender that way, you know. And that was my response was, long time no see, man. Did you think I was a Christian? It's happening. It's happening now. The last point though, and it goes to you, Drew, is that I've heard it somewhere. We don't have to believe the same things as long as we're connected on values. Yeah. And I think that is what's going to keep me in this company, is that the truth is we really actually do connect on a lot of values.
Absolutely. Hey, Scott, thank you so much. Thanks for bringing the good word. Okay. The good atheist word, the good progressive word.
Good news. Yeah.
And keep coming back on. Let us know how things are going. Keep us updated how work's going. Okay. It's good to talk to you, brother.
All right. Peace out, man. Thanks.
Yeah,
oh man, I'm a boomer to say peace out. Bye-bye.
Peace out, brother. The best of them. Absolutely. Very cool. Well, hey, yeah, good stuff. And we've got calls keep coming on. Should we go ahead and jump to the next one, Candace?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do it. Let's go. Let's go. We're bringing on Sam. Sam, pronouns she, her, right here in Minnesota. Going to talk about deconstructing Christianity. Hey, Sam, you're on live with Candace and Drew. How you doing tonight?
Hi, Drew. Hi, Candace. I'm doing well. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling in. So share with us a little bit about what's on your mind.
Yes. So I am calling as a deconstructing Orthodox Christian. I started immersing myself in the atheist community a few years ago and feel like this is where I belong, that I'm finally finding people who understand where I come from. I personally am anti-Bible, anti-church, anti-God stuff, you like to say, Drew. However, no matter how much I connect with atheism, I still have a part of me that's a believer. So one of my biggest challenges is waiting for that switch to flip.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Waiting for the switch to flip. And Sam, thank you so much for calling in and for sharing this. Some of this stuff can be very personal, and I thank you for calling in. Seriously, this is a really great call. I'm curious, in waiting for the switch to flip, as you put it, do you feel like it has to flip?
I'm not sure. I feel like when I'm around my atheist friends or in the atheist community, listening to podcasts and reading books, everyone seems so confident in their atheism, that I feel like kind of a fraud. And it's just been difficult for me because I so want to feel that confidence that I don't want to believe because of what I've learned and what my experiences and being anti-Bible and anti-church, it makes me feel like I want to give it up. And I hear people who have like these epiphanies almost. I don't know if that's what you would call it, Candace and Drew. Like, it sounds like you've had years of kind of thinking about it, but it almost sounds like one day you kind of realized, and I haven't had that moment yet.
And that's okay. That's okay. You know, it took me a long time to have that moment. You know, but the beauty about shows like this is that you can hear that your experience is not just you. You know, you're not the only one who has that sense of like, there's a little piece of, you know, Christian or Muslim or whatever. There's a little tiny piece of it still in there, and I can't seem to get it out. I think that's actually a very common experience. And, you know, I contributed an essay to a book that was specifically about women. It was specifically, and I was addressing mental health in women. And one of the things that I talked about at the end was exactly this issue of how do you make yourself more confident in what you do and do not believe? You know, and part of what I say is educate yourself. You know, that was one of the things I say, but also this building community is also very important. But it definitely is a common experience, I would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
that.
yeah. And, you know, one phrase that you used, Sam, that really stuck out to me, I think if I heard you right, correct me if I didn't, but that you don't want to believe, right? Don't want to, waiting for the switch to flip, not wanting to believe, but still, I guess here I'm just trying to connect dots, still almost like, would you say that there's like a pull that you just can't shake? I'd love to hear a little bit more, if you wouldn't mind kind of drawing that out a little bit. What does it mean waiting to not believe, wanting to not believe, and yet still kind of believing? Is it merely a matter of more studying more about that kind of stuff, reading some books to learn more? Or have you already done a lot of that and it's literally just waiting?
I think it's literally just waiting, because I have read and several books and listened to great podcasts and great atheists in the community, and have been to conventions. So I think it has more to do with, that's all I knew was this indoctrination from a baby being baptized and growing up in the Orthodox Church. And that's all I knew for so long. And I just can't shake it. And I think if I believe it's the Orthodox God is, yeah.
Well,
So,
you know, in
like
all of this, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you. Go ahead, Sam.
I'm sorry. It sounds like I just need to keep waiting and studying and talking to people.
Well, I mean, I have a question. I'm sorry, Drew. My question is, does it have to go away? You know, what does it feel like? What does it mean if that little piece of something never comes out of you? But you know, 98% of you is pretty confident and comfortable with where you're at.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, something to just sit on and think on, right? I mean, and it sounds like, if I'm connecting the dots correctly, that you've kind of been in this, call it, for, I suppose one way to put it would be like what they call it, a no man's land, right? Like a no human, like what, just this in between area. Maybe you've been sitting there for a while now, and maybe that's okay. You know, I wouldn't want you to feel rushed, like you have to believe or feel anything. And I've seen and felt some of that as well, where I think I have anyway, where you're not sure what's ahead. You're not sure where to go with it. But I think I would suggest maybe the least helpful thing is to try and force yourself to believe or feel something you don't, right? Something we used to say at the Clergy Project, Clergy Project probably still says it. I haven't been real involved for a while. But something we used to say a lot at the Clergy Project was the Clergy Project is not in the business of deconverting people. And what we would say then is, if you're happy in your faith, we're happy to leave you there, is something we would say all the time, where we are not a deconverting place. But if you are already in a space where you no longer believe, great, Clergy Project, it's for you. Bunch of non-believing pastors. Let's go. Okay. And I really do believe that in a lot of ways. I do see a place for what they call street epistemology. I think it can be really helpful. We need the debaters, and we need the philosophers, and we need we need all those things. They're very helpful. It's not me though. I'm more take the perspective where I like to focus on what are the values we find agreement in, where can we find commonalities, and how can we do life together? How can we do community together? And if you found yourself a good community or a group of folks, and maybe they all tend to be atheists and you're kind of there, but not quite, that's okay. Find a way to just inhabit the space you are comfortably, and to allow yourself to simply be and to exist as you are. I think that might be one of the most helpful things to take away. Candace, any other thoughts you have?
I mean, I like what you're saying about, being comfortable where you are. But, like I said, about, kind of to sort of go back to what I was saying a minute ago, like, if there is this little nugget that never seems to go away, can it be so? When I used to work with people with PTSD, I would do a visualization activity. And in the visualization activity, it was whatever was your trauma, whatever was your fear, whatever was your whatever, put it in a box and go sit that box off in the middle of a field and walk away and leave it there in the middle of that field just long enough for us to do our therapy session. If you want to go pick it up when we're done, you can go pick it up. But I'm thinking sort of maybe like a same sort of thing. Like maybe it doesn't all the way go away, but you can partition it off in such a way that it doesn't impact your daily life, if you can, and then maybe one day your switch will flip. Just out of curiosity, how long have you been sort of in this deconversion process to where you are now?
Well, I'm 38 now, and I started questioning things in my early 20s. Brought it to my father, who said it was just a phase. So I kind of kept it hidden for a while. And once my partner started getting involved with atheism, I felt like it was a good time to come open with that, or get open up with that and start exploring more that there were more people like me that questioned. So I'm really thankful to have a partner who is in this community as well. So it's been like 18 years that I started really questioning. And then a couple years ago, I really started getting more involved. And actually I was really getting involved with the atheist community during, I was in I have my master's in holistic health studies. So that kind of started to be contradictory as I was learning about energy healing and like universal spirits, and really resonating with a lot of what I was learning, because I was so excited to learn that, but really grappling with the fact that maybe there isn't a God, there isn't a spiritual being, or this isn't all true. So I don't want to think that I wasted 2 years and $40,000 of my life
Yeah.
Learning something, it is just something that I think about. So, well, thank you so much for your advice and taking my call. I appreciate the guidance.
No, thank you. Thanks for calling in, Sam, and call back. Update us if there's ever any updates. If eventually the switch does flip, we'd love to hear that. But really, anything along the way, if you just want to run some ideas by us or get some perspectives, whatever may be, or just share what the hell's happening in your life these future days, give us a call. Let us know. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. Thanks, Sam. Wow. What a call, huh?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I think the thing about that I think about is that, it is so much, it's such a common experience. And that's one thing about a lot of non-believers is that we don't realize how common our experiences are. And if we can sort of take the pressure off of ourselves by saying, this is just a normal human experience. I'm just going through it like everybody else. It's not no major stress or pressure. I think you said something like that, like, don't put any, pressure on yourself to be a certain way, to be the right way. Your way is what's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no right or wrong way to do any of this stuff. And I tend to think that the best approach at all times is to, first of all, just be honest about who you are, where you're at, rather than trying to force yourself. And sometimes maybe it's more cognitive stuff that's standing in the way. Sometimes maybe it's just more that emotive, that mushy kind of unknown emotive stuff where maybe your thoughts are there. Like you don't see how God could be real, and yet you just can't let go inside. It's all different for everybody. Yeah. Well, hey, before we move on to our next caller, I've promised folks, and damn it, unlike the gods, I try to keep my promises. Okay. So it is now time for a brand new segment to a brand new show called Bullshit Bible Verse of the Week. All right, folks and family. Tonight's bullshit Bible verse of the week comes all the way from Romans 8:28, reading it out of the very Bible I used to preach in. Check this out, Candace. Now, you can see by the style of the Bible that I was a little bit of a hipster pastor, okay? I was a little bit of a hipster dude, all right? But I also look at it literally falling apart, okay? Had to get a new one like every 2 years. Had to get a new one. This is the most recent one, all right? From the good book, or the good bullshit book, Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Now, I think, Candace, folks and family, that we would be hard pressed to find another verse that has more manipulated or more tortured Christians in this world or beyond it even. I think we'd be hard pressed to find a verse that has manipulated or tortured folks more than this verse. Top tier, okay? In all things God works for the good of those who love him. But does he though? Candace, help me out. I mean, does he? Does God really? Does he? Tell that to the child with cancer. Tell that to the single parent who just lost their job and their benefit check. Oh, but God works all good things for those of you if you love him.
That makes me think about just sort of adjacent is they were saying recently Pete Hegseth gave some kind of prayer, and that was his prayer was like, let us be lethal and da 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 da, like that kind of attitude of what sorts of things I will ask for, what kind of things God is working working to do for me. Like it can go anywhere. It could go all the way to kill my enemies. It could go to, heal my child. And like you said, you can sort of use that as that verse was one that tortured me as well when I was going through when I was just starting to question, when my life was falling apart.
Yep.
Because that was one of the messages was like, if you're not living this amazing way, then you're missing something. If this stuff that's happening to you, is either you got two messages. You either get the message that this is God's will and you just chill in it and relax, or you get the opposite message, which is this is not God's will. So you must have a demon in you. You must be doing something wrong,
Right.
that sort of thing. But you can take either side of it, whichever way you want. Your choice.
I mean, right? If God works all things together for those who truly believe, who have even a grain of sand, well, then it's going to work out. Oh, it's not working out for you. Raise your hand in the chat. Raise your hand if you ever question, well, shit, it's not working out for me. Then is my belief good enough? Does God love me? Is he questioning my sincerity? Am I fucking bonkers? Yeah. I call this verse bullshit is what I call it.
Bullshit.
Hey, Candace, I know, let's see. Shit, I can't believe it's already 10 after 8 or 9 or 5, 6, depending on your time zone. I guess I should specify. We have a couple more calls. Okay. And we're going to keep trucking along. And I know we decided that tonight now folks, I just want to let everybody know. Okay. There may be sessions in the future weeks where maybe we do go 2, 3, 7, 9 hours. Maybe we're still going noon the next day. I don't know. But tonight we do have a stop at the hour and a half mark tonight. So we are going to take these next 2 calls and then we might need to start wrapping things up. But folks, family, all the more reason why you want to get your info in the chat, respond, and make sure we're going to talk more about, we're going to have some announcements. We're going to have all kinds of stuff to share at the end. Make sure you keep coming back. Make sure you participate in the community. There's a variety of ways to do that. Okay. So this show's going to be ending, but the community's not over. Folks and fam, we're just getting started. Okay. But we are going to take our next call here now. We are pulling it all the way from Massachusetts. Victor, pronouns he, him, wondering about something about answered prayers and stuff like that in retrospect. Hey, Victor, you are on live with Candace and Drew. How you doing, my friend?
Hello, guys. How are you?
Not bad. Having the time of our lives. At least I am. Candace is putting up with me. But yeah.
How's my audio?
Pretty good. Maybe a little muffled, a little bit, but I think we're catching it for the most part. Talk to us. What's on your mind, my friend?
My microphone. So my question was this. Basically, I know you guys are kind of getting ready to wrap up the show. So real quick, I'll just say that, Drew, you and I have been in touch before because I read your book, The Rise and Fall of Faith. And other than the fact that you became a clergyman, I mean, your book really spoke to me in terms of the background of, not being an outcast at school or anything, but really being at home at church. And regardless, as the years went on and I became more educated, I began to have some doubts. And politics, in my case, eventually became a big catalyst, for me to really begin my deconstruction. And once it happened, it happened and I deconverted. But the only thing that I sometimes still struggle with is just how do I view events in my past that I thought of as answered prayers? I mean, for me, I just kind of view them as those are things that I accomplished, or maybe they were coincidences that went in my favor or whatever. But I don't know if you guys have anything different to say about that, or if you guys ever had any thoughts about things like that as you deconstructed and deconverted.
That is a big one. Fantastic question, right? Candace, and I'd be curious too, from your perspective also in terms of, as a prophetess, how you look at those kinds of things. Can I ask you, Victor, what, you reference your backstory a little bit. What kind of faith tradition do you come from? Or what did your experiences look like prior to leaving the faith?
So I grew up going to a Arabic Baptist church in Boston that was founded by my father's uncle. And so I grew up very conservative and religious. But I also was a big science nerd, and I have like some Velociraptor models that my dad bought me for Christmas once and let me build. And my father, to his credit, he's a microbiologist. Yeah. So science and some nerdiness stuff kind of runs in the family. And so with the topic of dinosaurs comes the topic of evolution. And as a kid, it always struck me that the youth leaders always had to take their time to try and tear down. I've been wanting to do for a while now. You prove yourself to me. I'll stop deconstructing right now, and I'll accept gladly whatever punishment you want to place on me for insubordination or whatever. So I continued to access as many resources as I could. I've done some shows with Durante Lamar in the past. I watched a lot of his videos.
Yeah.
And of course, your book was one that I read. I read some theist books as well. And I watched some theist and atheist YouTube content. As I put it in a Facebook post when I eventually decided to go public, it was like a boxing match between religious Victor and worldly Victor. And the first round or two, but then worldly Victor did a Mortal Kombat style fatality on religious Victor. So
yeah. And it sounds like, if I'm connecting the dots correctly, and correct me if I'm not connecting, that you are no longer a theist or a believer in God stuff. Is that correct? Am I connecting that right?
You are correct. I went from being an agnostic to an atheist, and now I'm actually kind of an anti-theist, to be quite honest with you.
Sure. Yeah. You know, great question, because I think if nothing else, it's kind of a fun size to think through, or maybe more just way to think through and make past and make sense of our humanity, right? Because I think a lot of us in our Christian experience, whatever our faith traditions might be, is we go through experiences where we are convinced at this is God. This is a God moment. This is God's hand upon us. It is God's answer to our prayers. I certainly have that. There was a time where I was convinced. We had been praying for 4 times, one of my daughters, 4 times we were told, her NICU in the emergency room, your daughter will not survive the night. 4 times she made it through. Now she's in her 20s. She's an adult, okay? We were convinced. She was diagnosed at one point with something that only 12 other known cases in the world had. And then one day just poof, gone. We were convinced that it was God. How could it be anything other than God, right? 12 cases? They took pictures of her textbooks. Of course, God healed her. And yet, the reality is when the doctors told us that she had it, meant there were only 12 known cases. Of those 12 known cases, exactly 4 of the 12, 1/3 of them, 4 of the 12, it was a lifelong crippling condition. The other 4, it disappeared. It disappeared somewhere in late childhood. And for the other, it disappeared mysteriously. They still didn't know enough about it, but it seemed poof, gone within the first 2 years of life. That's what happened with my daughter. And so, it's a miracle. No, it's just science not yet fully understood yet, right? And so I have a number of things like that. I can think of when at one point I prayed and my suicidal ideation, snap, crackle, pop was gone for a few years, right? And so, yeah, there's things where science tells us there's all kinds of things. Maybe we unpack in greater detail at some point, maybe not. But Candace, your thoughts on some of this as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like depending on the situation. Some of the ways that I've explained things, one is just chance, like you're saying, it's just chance. Some of it is, I did that. I did that shit. Like, you're not going to get credit for what I did. Some of that is, some of that, it just makes me think of like when I was so extreme that I used to do things like pray for a good parking space at the grocery store. And if I got a space up at the front, you know what? God did that. God did that. When I, college, God did that. God did that. But of course, like I said, after time, well, that parking spot was gonna become available at some point. Somebody was gonna get it. You just happened to be the one. It wasn't anything special about that. And you went to college and made those A's. Like, you did that work. No mysterious, like, oh my God, Candace got a bachelor's degree. Candace got a degree. There was no mystery behind that. I did the work. So, and then there's confirmation bias. Humans look for patterns, and we look for evidence, and then those kinds of things that we already want to be true, when they come true, then when we don't talk about the times that our prayers didn't come true, though everybody just sweeps those under the rug.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Victor, I hope that's helpful. We do have to, I'm going to toss it back to you for the final 30 seconds. We do need to keep moving, unfortunately. We want to respect everyone's time, and we don't want Candace to get kicked out of the house. And so we're gonna wrap up here soon. But sorry, that was an inside joke, and I'm just dumb as hell. Okay, not afraid of hell. That's why I'm still dumb as hell. But okay, Victor, last 30 seconds. I hope this was helpful.
No, it was very helpful. And for anybody out there who is thinking about deconstructing to do it, I got an unexpected boost in my mental health, to be honest with you. This was just one of those things that I've still been wrestling with. Thank you guys so much for having me, and have a good night.
Oh, thank you so much, Victor. Call back again, okay? And I apologize. We have a caller. Anybody who is active in Twin Cities hedonism, heathenism, and maybe hedonism too. Anybody who's involved in cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, heathenism and all that good stuff, heretic house parties and all that, notably well. Justice, I'm going to bring you on to come say a quick hello. Let's take a quick hello. Do we have time to chat for a couple minutes, Candace? Yeah? Okay. Sure. Our time is short, but Justice, pronouns she, her, right here in Minnesota. I see maybe have a good word from the space of paganism to share with us. Justice, you are an incredibly dear human, and thank you so much for coming on live with Candace and Drew. How you doing, my friend?
Just so much love to both you, Candace, and to you, Drew. Well, kind of to you, Drew. Y'all both are just so amazing. I'm so glad to get the chance to just talk with you. I wanted to throw up, and I know that we're running right at the very end, so I'm going to jump straight into it. Mm-hmm. What parts of your former faith do you still feel follow you around that may or may not provide you with comfort?
What part?
I know that.
Yeah. Jump on that, Candace. Yes.
I am a Black woman, tradition, gospel music still courses through my veins. I cannot help it. I sing the song. I get so excited. Like the other day, I went through a phase of time where I hated gospel music because I felt like the messages, it was like, we shouldn't be giving people these kinds of messages. It's not helpful. But once I got out of that angry phase, I was like, this is some good shit. Okay, Adams can blow, and I want, right? And so, just a quick plug is that FFRF has a project. If you've been to one of their conferences in the past couple of years, they have this project, It's Gospel. project. And so we actually just recorded an album a couple of weeks ago that they're hoping will be out by the time of their fall conference. And it is some of such good music. And it all sounds like gospel, but all of believe in honesty. I believe in people, I believe in thanking. So it's all these positive messages. We still get that gospel music sound. So yes, gospel music. I knew that one as soon as I saw the question scroll across.
Oh, I love that.
Me and my mama my mama has an amazing sense of humor. And so even though she knows I'm an atheist and she's still a believer, we banter back and forth, really well. And so I enjoy that with her, where sometimes I'd be like, well, won't he do it? He will take care. Like we kind of banter like that. That's a lot of fun too.
Okay, here we have another $9.99. I like it, from Traber, I think I'm saying. Loving the conversation. Thanks, Drew and Candace. Looking forward to seeing one. And cheers to you, my friend. Thank you so much for the love and support. All right. Well, good stuff. Want to mention just a couple other thanks to everyone that helps make tonight and all of Skeptic Haven possible. We want to thank, of course, our patrons, Patreon patrons, Paul Fisher, Hells Bells, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Rion, Mama D, D Murphy, Dan D, Michael Wiseman, Sonny Shell, and Phil Calderone, to each of you. Also, we want to thank our YouTube members, which include Kellie, Laughlin, Logan Fisher, Stop the Stupidity, InfiDale, Angela, Skeptical Scott, and tons of mice. All right, thank you so much, all of you, for keeping the channel moving strong. Thank all of the crew, and I'm still beginning to meet and learn everybody. I hope I don't miss anyone, but I know we got back there tonight. Michael, Bree, I think Cole is back there as well. The whole crew of everybody, all y'all, thank you so much for all of your work behind the scenes back there, where we can just like spin and show everybody, because they are making the magic happen and moderating, which brings me, it's like church, y'all. It's like Wednesday night Bible study or prayer meeting or youth group, or maybe this is true, okay, in calling it that. But in the announcement time, we're always looking for additional hands and faces and listening ears to make this happen. Specifically, we would love if you would consider serving as maybe a call screener, maybe a mod. Reach out, let us know, drop something in the chat or reach out otherwise. Let us know that if it looks like it would be a good fit for you, but we would love to have that conversation. Jump on this team. Happen. All right. So this upcoming week, right, it's not just about life after faith. The Skeptic Haven crew is tomorrow night, Critical Call with AJ Ruley. And tomorrow night, AJ is bringing on Sydney Davis, Johan, Let's Talk. We have myself and the illustrious Jim Barrows will be joining us Sunday for Let's Talk. All of the shows, at least at present, I believe, certainly these three anyway, are all at 7 p.m. Central Time, which is, or maybe 5 p.m. Pacific. Okay, so make sure to check those out. The clapping is right there. What we want to do is we want to build community. We want to keep this going all week long. We give you opportunity to engage and develop an ongoing slice of community right here. So whether it's by the chat, whether it's by calling in, maybe it's even by putting together some viewing parties, y'all, with your closest friends. Okay, Wednesday night small group is now in session, y'all. Okay, so we want to do that, and we want to clue you in at the end of each week to what next week's featured conversation will be. And in this case, next week featured conversation is on the subject of community, with how easy it can be to bring the church's toxic expectations to our new post-faith communities. Us co-hosting this conversation is going to be Chad Harris of Shiny Happy People, Season 1 Secrets. And Chad is going to really help us really dig into this conversation of how easy it can be. build safer, healthier ones. And of course, bring any boots on the ground challenges you're facing in real time to next week's conversation as well. That, Candace, thank you so much for joining us on this maiden voyage, all right, into the Skeptiverse. As we head out of here, please let us know, where can we find you? Where can we keep up with all your exciting work? And what you...
So my online presence is a little lame. I've been in grad school working on my MBA for the past couple of years. So I haven't been very active online, to be honest. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you send me a message, I will respond. But don't go to my page, look at content.
So just storm your wedding, right? Figure out where the wedding is and just storm that in tuxedo, in full formal. Yeah.
I don't have enough food.
I did not mention that. Sorry, keep going.
The bulk of my work nowadays is American Humanist Association. I kind of put a bunch of other things to the side, so to put my attention to that. So of course, that's AmericanHumanist.org. They're gonna kill me if I say that wrong. And other than that, I'm just, like I said, I'm in grad school. When you're in grad school, that's all you do right now. But my final thought is congratulations to you, Drew, and the whole entire Skeptic Haven team. You guys, phenomenal job, and I've just really had the best time this evening. That way better time than I thought I would have. Not that I was expecting to have a bad time.
No, I get
but
it.
This is even better.
Okay? Yeah, I mean, it's a little unknown. Hey, make sure, folks. Okay, Candace, my only regret for tonight is I wish we would have had time to dig into a little bit more of the Ebony Exodus project and the process of the project behind the book. But seriously, y'all, pick up this book. It is absolutely incredible. And then also, of course, Candace's was on death, dying, and disbelief. Gets into real human feelings and human life. But Candace, again, thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Candace, I don't think we mentioned it. The crew wants me to see. Can you, if possible, stick around for a minute or two after we close out? If that's possible. If we can, we're so sorry. But to pulling you away from whatever's next. But seriously, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you. Thanks for tuning in tonight, making this maiden voyage a success. We love you. Even Life After Faith, where we're finding our way together, y'all. Have a great week. Well, that's a wrap here, folks. Hey, do us a favor. Smash like, subscribe. Extra lovey tonight. Then please, Patreon, memberships, a good old share to the algorithm. Feel the love and keep the channel moving strong. But hey, one way or another, next time, fam, on Life After Faith, where we're finding out